As you become ideal, then you're interesting to people. You'll have fantasies about the ideal. That often happens in a romantic relationship, especially at the beginning of it. The projection is there in part to help the person understand who it is that they're dealing with. The basis is, if it's interesting to me, it must be close to the ideal. Well, yeah, except the person that you're going out with, attracted to, is warped and bent and flawed and twisted. As you become ideal, then you're interesting to people. So that's interesting, because what that means is that you can read off people's interest to find out when you're deviating from the ideal. And they don't even know what the ideal is. The ideal is that to which their attention is inexorably drawn. And they're always telling you when you fall short of the ideal. Always. It's being broadcast at you all the time. And then your imagination back there is to try and figure out, just what is this ideal? You know, because your imagination is watching you in a Piagetian sense, noticing what you do, and then trying to figure out what that is. So you'll have fantasies about the ideal. That often happens in a romantic relationship, especially at the beginning of it. Because, you know, you project your idealization onto the person that you're romantically attracted to. That's the projection of an archetype. So Jung would say, the woman will project an animus onto the man. The animus is her conceptualization of what the ideal man is. It's unconscious because it's rooted in fantasy. And the man will be in concordance with that projection in some areas. Those are the areas where she likes him, by the way, and will be discordant in other areas. And that's the areas where she constantly disappoints him as the relationship develops. So the projection is there in part to help the person understand who it is that they're dealing with, because when you meet someone, you have to assume something about them. It's the same as projection. You have to assume something about them, and if you find them fascinating, which is what happens if you fall in love, maybe it's because they smell good or they're symmetrical or something, you immediately assume that they embody the ideal. It's an oversimplification, but the oversimplification has a basis, and the basis is, if it's interesting to me, it must be close to the ideal. Well, yeah, except the person that you're going out with, attracted to, is warped and bent and flawed and twisted, 300 ways, and you'll find that out soon enough, just as they will about you. And that often just blows the relationship into bits, because the person will say, well, she wasn't who I thought she was. It's like, well, whoever said she was who you thought she was? It's like, where did you get the misapprehension that she was going to be who you thought she was? God, what do you know? You're led around by your sense of smell and your ability to detect symmetry. So so the anima and the animus are two primary Jungian archetypes, and they're very complex, but that kind of gets at the surface. The ideal that I was describing, so people are broadcasting information to each other, which is, be ideal, be ideal, be ideal. It's like, be my ideal, obviously. If I took 1,000 ideals and then averaged them or extracted out the common ideal, the ideal that was common to all of them, that would be a savior figure. That's what a savior figure is. And then now and then someone comes along who acts quite a bit like that. And poof, you've got yourself a religion. So do not be thinking that these images that people fall around like bloodhounds on a trail. Do not be thinking that those things are like conscious cognitive constructs.